Hi, everybody. This is Nasser Rodriguez with Comic Arts San Antonio, CASA for short. We're the only convention in San Antonio that focuses on comic book writers and comic book artists. And today we'll be speaking to a comic book writer who will be at CASA on October 5th, Joe Khachadourian. Thank you for joining me today, Joe.
Hey, Nasser, thanks for having me. I appreciate the time.
Awesome, man. So as I mentioned, Joe's going to be with us at CASA 2024 on October 5th. And we just want people to get to know you a little bit more, Joe, and get to know the work that you're working on and that you'll have with you there at CASA. So before we start talking about that, let's get to know a little bit more about you. So first of all, where are you based out of, Joe?
I am based in Austin, Texas, the
Oh,
capital of
okay.
Texas here. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Right up the road from us here in San Antonio.
Yeah. Hop, skip, and a jump away.
Born and raised in Austin, or no?
No. I've been in Austin for about 6 years. Prior to
Okay.
that, I was in California.
Oh, okay. Is that where you're from originally?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What brought you over to Austin?
Mainly my day job, but it was the city itself. I had a few different options of where I could go when I left the Bay Area, and since Austin was one of those options, it wasn't even a question. I would
Yeah.
travel here a lot for fun, for ACL and a lot of the other music shows,
Mhm.
and also I'd travel here a lot for work, and I kind of fell in love with the city and the culture and Willie Nelson and Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
So I had to
Yeah, and
stick
especially
around.
as a comic book creator, we have like a pretty big community between San Antonio and Austin area
We do,
of
we do.
people working professionally, people doing independent self-publishing. So it's a
Yeah.
cool area, man.
I agree. I joke with some people that I mainly moved here because Robert Rodriguez and Joe Madureira both live in Austin, Texas as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, that's true. I know I've been looking for Joe Mad, any kind of info of where he might live or how I can get in
Right.
touch with him to invite him to the show, but that's still ongoing.
Yeah, he's like a hidden white whale out there somewhere.
Well, the white whale for me is John Romita. Apparently he lives outside Austin.
Oh, really?
Yeah, John Romita Jr.
I had
So
no idea.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly right. He keeps that secret, but
Yeah.
we'll get him to come to Casa one day, hopefully.
Nice. Yeah, I'll add him to my stalker list as well. So good to
Yeah.
know. Good to know.
All right, Joe. So as I mentioned, you are a comic book writer. So before we get to what you're currently working on or what you have worked on, when did you start reading comics? Have you always been a lifelong comic book fan?
Yeah, definitely lifelong. I actually struggle to remember when exactly I did start reading comics because I
Mhm.
have been reading them for so long. Mainly as like a lot of comics were just old comics my dad just happened to have when I was really young, and he would just give them to me to read and help me to learn how to read and write.
Mhm.
But in doing so, it also kind of immersed me in that world of panels and colors and
Yeah, yeah.
storytelling and voiceovers. And so I feel like a lot of the way comics were created helped formulate how I approach life. Like when I think about things, I tend to see things in storyboards and panels,
Yeah.
and caption boxes come up in my head as I'm like thinking my way through a problem that I want to solve in life.
Do you have any
So
kind of like film background or anything as well that helps you see things like that in storyboards?
yeah, so in college I minored in theater,
Ah,
playwriting
okay.
and screenwriting. So I have had formal training in that approach too.
Ah, okay. So yeah, that
I
definitely
tend to
makes
write
sense.
out. Yeah, I tend to
Mhm.
write out. Um, whether it's for personal reasons, professional reasons, I tend to jot things down in storyboards, and this person's
Mhm.
going to react this way, and that person's going to react that way, and it helps me get through my planning for certain situations. So I
Ah,
kind of
okay.
I adore it all, right?
Yeah.
Like just the whole story structure, and I prefer comics to movies and TV shows. I know a lot of folks get into comics sometimes thinking they're going to make their comic book publication into some form of movie or
Yeah,
TV
yeah.
series, but that's never really been my goal.
Yeah. I mean, like you're saying, like I think a lot of people prefer it because while there's been so many advances in like effects and CGI and stuff, you can just do so much more on a comic page that you're never going to be able to put faithfully on a screen.
Totally
So
agree.
yeah.
Totally agree.
So well, do you remember what any of those old comics that your dad had were? Was he mostly a Marvel guy or a DC guy or?
Mainly DC.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of Green Lantern.
Oh, okay,
Like
cool.
the mid to late '80s Green Lantern books,
Okay.
and then a lot of Batman, like the early Jason Todd days, like right
Oh,
before
okay.
Crisis kind of
Yeah, yeah,
rebooted him to like the street thug kid.
yeah.
A lot of those earlier appearances, I remember getting those passed down to me as well. And my dad also had a lot of, 'cause we lived in the Middle East for a little while, and my
Hmm.
dad had a lot of Arabic reprints of Batman comics that were written in Arabic and read from right to left, the way you'd read manga.
Oh,
So
okay, cool.
those were interesting too, and I remember reading a lot of those as a kid as well.
That's awesome. So, do you remember, like, now that you got older, or once you started getting older and you could recognize artists and stuff, was that like the Jim Amparo like era, or what was? Do you remember that?
Yeah, it was the Jim Aparo era. Yep,
Okay.
yep,
Man, you were getting some good stuff as a kid. No wonder you
yeah.
got hooked.
I
So,
agree, and it was the Dave Gibbons era of Green Lantern too. So like
oh,
it was
that's right. I
definitely,
forgot all
yeah,
about that.
definitely the highlights.
Yeah,
I
because
think
I
he
think
fought
I
the
missed.
shark in one issue.
Yeah, because I missed all of that stuff. Like, I didn't jump in until when Hal like came back and he had the white sides on there. That's the
After
kind of.
Emerald Dawn, yeah,
Yep.
yeah, I remember
Yeah. So
those.
that, and I went back and read Emerald Dawn, but then after that, like, I hadn't read any of that early stuff. But man, yeah, no wonder you were hooked. That was some great stuff.
Yep, it was, and it was
So
always
then,
so imaginative. You know, everything was so over the top, and
yeah.
just awesome.
So that hooked you. So then when did you start picking up your own stuff and what did you gravitate towards to?
So, good question. It was kind of almost like an evolution. I'd always been into comics and action figures too. Like I had a ton of Transformers as a kid, and now again
Mhm.
I have a ton of Transformers as an adult. The Superpowers action figure line had come
Yeah.
out around
Hmm.
that time. The Marvel Secret Wars action figures had come out. So I was really into all of that, the superhero and sci-fi pop culture elements. But I still wasn't big into collecting anything
Hmm.
per se. It wasn't until the '89 Batman movie came out, and that
Yeah.
really changed everything for me. You know, not just the movie itself, but like the attention it brought to the comic book world as well.
Hmm.
I remember my mom buying me one of the early Dark Knight Returns trades that DC put out around that time. And me reading that, and even at that age, I think I was 11, just not fully understanding it, but still thinking like, "This is amazing!" Like,
Yeah.
wow, did Batman just shoot Two Face with a rifle? Um, and that just kind of blew my mind. So I was like, I got to get more of this. And then X-Men #1 by Claremont and Jim Lee came out, and
Yeah.
that was pretty much the book that I consider like the first one that I went and
Mhm.
bought a bag of boards for, and then
Nice.
it never stopped from there.
Were you getting all the covers, the connecting covers?
I was, yeah, I
Yeah.
totally did. The only one I still have now is the Gambit Wolverine cover. But yep, I had all the connecting covers and the gatefold one that were already
Yeah.
all connected. I think I had
Yeah.
like a foil reprint that came out later. Ah, that was a good time.
Yeah, that was amazing, man. And yeah,
Yeah.
we're getting the taste of that again with the X-Men 97 show,
Oh
right?
yeah, I can't wait to watch the finale. I've been like
Yeah,
itching to
me
get
too.
to
I
it
haven't
all
watched it.
morning.
But yeah, I think we're probably around the same age. So yeah, I think Batman 89 really was like, that's what blew my like little kid mind too. I remember the merchandising. I had figures, I had t-shirts, I had
Yep.
everything. I
And you
remember.
couldn't go anywhere without see like any store you went into, whether it was a grocery store or a clothing store, there was, the Batman t-shirt. I still
Mhm.
remember like so many people in the streets with the bat symbol shaved into their heads, and
Oh
it was
wow.
just it was a
Yeah.
wild time, man. Like, even now with in the early days of the MCU, you still didn't get that level of fanaticism around a certain
Yeah.
character like that movie brought out.
Yeah, that was crazy, man. Like, I remember even like little kid me in art class, like making a pottery mug of Batman because I was just so
Yep,
brainwashed. So
sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
all right. So you start in what's that? Jim Lee's #1. That's like mid 90s, right? 90 what?
Yeah, around 92,
Yeah,
92.
yeah.
Or was it
So
91 when it came? Yeah, 91,
yeah, I
92.
think it was 91, 92.
Yep.
So you're reading all of that stuff. You're even at that time, was it in your head that like, hey, I want to start doing this? Or when did you get the bug that now I want to create my own stories?
So that's a good question too. I can't remember exactly when that was, but I've been drawing comics for a long time as well. So even when I was younger, my aunt owned a small pharmacy, and I used to trace Garfield comic
Hmm.
strips.
Yeah.
But I would put a Batman costume on Garfield, and I would call him
Nice.
Batcat, and I would make these little mini comics called Batcat and Roby, and that was Odie, was
Oh.
Robin, and I would try to sell them to customers in her pharmacy. I don't think I did that well financially, but that's like where I remember my first approach to both sales and
Someone out
comic
there has
creation.
a Batcat and Roby
Yep,
mini comic.
limited edition.
Yeah.
Um, and then as I got older, again, I kept drawing. Even when, like, remember when the 1990 Ninja Turtles movie came out, I was totally
Yeah.
drawing the turtles every day. But when I got into high school, I joined the school paper as the cartoonist,
Oh, okay.
and that's when I really started to kind of formulate, in my head, like, this is probably something I could do with a little bit more time and patience. And then as I got older, my art didn't improve a whole lot, but my writing definitely did, especially with the training I got
Yeah.
in college. So after I got out of college, I started really looking at, getting into various anthologies and
Hmm.
submitting to a lot of, various publishers openings for writers. Remember, Marvel had like their Epic line for a very short
Yeah.
period of time
Hmm.
where you could submit a pitch there. And the pitch I submitted for that actually ended up morphing into Identity Stunt, funnily enough.
Oh, okay.
But as I got older past that, and then technology improved, comicsology came out, the
Hmm.
onset of digital comics made it seem more real, like to get something out there without having to worry about getting an actual publisher who was willing to print. Um, and when Comicsology Submit opened up and was asking for pitches, that's when I like really dug my heels in and put something together, because I thought this is my best way in. And even if Comicsology Submit doesn't accept it, I'm still going to get this out there one way or the other. And
Yeah.
that's where Identity Stunt came from.
Okay. And so that's,
After a challenge from my aunt too, who said, she saw me reading a Justice League book once and said, "How come your name's not on that cover?" So
oh, okay.
challenge accepted.
Nice.
Here we are.
Okay. So, well, that brings us to Identity Stunt that you've got the background there, right there.
Yep.
So, was that your first, like, I guess, self-published work?
Uh, Kind of. It wasn't self-published. I'm published through Marcosia, and they're
Oh,
a
that's
small
right. Hmm.
publisher based out of the UK. They're kind of like
Okay.
the Image Comics of the UK. I did have another publisher before that there where things didn't quite work out, unfortunately.
Mhm.
I can talk to you about that offline someday.
All right.
But the experience with Marcosia has been great. Like I said, I had another publisher. Things didn't work out with them for reasons out of my control. That had nothing to do with our book, more financial on their end. So then I ended up talking to my friend Sam Johnson, who does the Geek Girl comic at Marcosia,
Okay.
and he put me in touch with the publisher, and it's been a friendship ever since then. They've been really good to me.
Okay. So, why don't you tell us a little bit, what is Identity Stunt about?
So, Identity Stunts. Some of you may be familiar with a certain movie out now about a stuntman who's falsely accused of something he didn't do, while also trying to rekindle a lost love and get through some debacles with his friends. You might think I'm talking about the Fall Guy movie, but I'm actually talking about Identity Stunt. So yeah, Identity Stunt is about a stuntman named Sammy Nasser. So got some crossover there, and he is falsely accused of being a vigilante that nobody likes. So we're not talking like a Batman. We're talking more of a Punisher or a Rorschach. And due to viral media and YouTube and TikTok and all that good stuff, pretty much everybody in his immediate vicinity believes that he is this vigilante known as Beatdown. So he's got the cops coming after him, the bad guys coming after him, and everybody in between, while also trying to save his marriage and his family with his ex-wife Tracy and his daughter Alyssa. So there's a lot of elements in there. We've got sci-fi, ton of action. It's heavily inspired by 80s and 90s action movies.
Okay.
So think like Lethal Weapon meets Unbreakable or James Gunn's Super as far as tone goes. So it's meant to be over the top. It's got a lot of humor, a lot of heart, and nonstop action,
Okay.
breakneck pace.
So, how many issues or collections of that do you have out right now?
So we've got 8 issues total, and 2 collections. So volume one is the first 4 issues, and volume two is the second group of 4. Volume one is titled, funnily enough, The Fall Guy, even though, look, folks, Identity Stunt Volume one came out in 2018, well before this movie was conceived.
So they
That
owe you
said,
some money.
I think they do, and there's a lot of similarities in the plots. Now, I'm fully convinced it's a coincidence, but it also makes me feel pretty good. I've even got a note in Identity Stunt about the old 80s Miami Vice stunt show at Universal Studios,
Yeah,
which they actually reference quite heavily in the Fall Guy movie as well. So that kind of blew my mind.
that's too many
But
coincidences. Ryan Gosling got a copy of Identity Stunt and took it to a studio somehow.
that would be, I hope that's the case, and if that was the case, I'd be honored. But I don't think that's what happened. But I it's funny because the Fall Guy is a show I used to watch with my dad when I was younger as well,
Mhm.
and I just love the idea that it was just a guy who was so good at getting beaten up that he could also go do that offset and help people at the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was really drawn to that approach, and the stuntman element really adds a layer of realism to
Hmm.
the abilities that the characters display, like their fighting abilities and their stamina. I feel like having that the stuntman in their background makes that a little bit more palatable
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
readers. And I just couldn't believe that then the movie came out, while Identity Stunt is in progress,
Yeah.
and they're just so similar that it makes me really happy.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So, will you have those collections at Casa October 5th?
Absolutely. I'll have volume one, The Fall Guy, volume two, which is called Father's Figures.
Okay.
Um, and we are currently in process on working on volume three. I should hopefully also have something to show for my next book that I'm working on with Marcosia that is not part of the Identity Stunt world per se. It's called Altered Metal.
Okay.
And if Identity Stunt's my love letter to 80s and 90s action movies, Altered Metal is my love letter to 80s and 90s robot cartoons.
Oh, okay. Cool. Well, you did say you're a big Transformers fan, so
Big Transformers fan.
okay. Cool, man. So that's your new work that you're currently working on right now.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And you said you're also working on more Identity Stunt though?
Yeah. So I'm hoping to get volume three of Identity Stunt out late next year, if not early 26. And my hope is to get the trilogy done and then see where we go from there.
Okay.
Volume two ended on a bit of a downer cliffhanger, very similar to Star Wars Episode 5. To definitely wants you to come back and see what's going to happen next.
Okay. And how much do you have planned for? I'm sorry, what was the robot one called?
Altered Metal.
Altered Metal. How much do you have planned for that one?
So those are going to be a series of graphic novels. I'm not really sticking to an individual issue count on this one.
Okay.
We may release digitally in chapters, but they're basically going to be around 100 to 120 page graphic novels.
Okay. And you said you might have a preview for us on
Yeah,
at
I'm going to
Casa?
try to have like an ash can type for the first chapter available for folks to take a look at
Okay.
Casa, because I'm really proud of this book. I am actually working with the art team on this one. We've got Beatdown Studios, who's a group of guys I know that do various forms of artwork, all kind of working together and taking like an animation or computer game design approach to the artwork. So we've got folks working on the character designs and character art, and we got a different group working on the backgrounds. So the art styles of the characters and the backgrounds are slightly different, but together, I think it looks really special, and it's something that I don't see a lot in comic books. So I'm really excited to get this out there in people's hands. So
Yeah, that's awesome. I can't wait to see an ash can. I've got a Identity Stunt Volume 1 and 2 on my shelves back here,
Yep,
so
and I appreciate that.
I'll definitely add whenever that comes out. So, Joe, in the meantime, until October 5th, if people wanted to keep up with you and whatever new updates you have, where can they keep up with you? Any websites or social media?
Yeah, so we've got identitystunt.com, though I admit that's mainly identity stunt updates, not not altered metal or other things. But that's the best place to go for any identity stunt news. My general comic news I'll post on various social media platforms, primarily Blue Sky, where I'm at Joe underscore KACH, Joe Catch. That's my nickname. And on Instagram as well, same at Joe underscore KACH. I've been posting a lot of artwork from Altered Metal on my Instagram feed.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Joe. Um, Anyone out there that if Identity Stunt sounded interesting, or if you want to check out the preview that Joe will have at CASA, remember to join us October 5th in San Antonio, Texas. We are going to be at a new location this year. We are going to be at the Marriott San Antonio Airport. So we're going old school comic convention in a hotel ballroom.
Yes, like the early days.
We do try to keep it affordable, so it's only $8 at the door for admission. So please come on out, stop by Joe's table, pick up Identity Stunt, and then once you give Joe some money, then you can go see what everyone else at the show has.
That's right. I appreciate that, Nasser. Thank you so much. And folks, CASA is one of my favorite shows in the area. So by all means, I fully want to echo what Nasser said. Come on down. You will not be disappointed if you love comics.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Joe.
All right. Take care. Thanks again.
Have a good one.